6:15 to call this meeting of the Hamilton East Public Library Board of Trustees for February 20th, 2025 to order. First item on the agenda is pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Comments from the public is first up, but it sounds like I was waved off by Amber's. We move on to item 4, which is consent agenda. Did anybody get the board have anything from the consent agenda that needs to be taken? No. Hearing none, we take the agenda by consent. Consent. All right. So, hearing none, consent agenda is adopted. We will move on next to fees, services, and materials revision to Ignite materials pricing. Let's fill us in on what's going on there.
Yes, so we need approval for, we have added the new risograph printer, and so we need to set the pricing for that printing, and then the Megan and the Ignite City let us know that our cost of materials have gone up, so we're need to increase the cost for plywood and acrylic. So they went up from, so she set the price for the risograph, and then the plywood is increasing from $2.20 a sheet to $3, and then the 6 millimeter is increasing from $3 to $4.80, and acrylic is increasing from $5.40 to $5.50 per sheet, and for the smaller size from $4.40 to $4.50.
Is there a motion to adopt the? Susan moves to adopt. Kim seconds. Any discussion on the motion to adopt the new materials? We'll take votes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Ignite materials pricing. We have the administrative AER regarding the voice over internet protocol. Administrator's executive recommendation. Can you tell us what's going on there?
Sure. So our voice over IP phone system is about 10 years old, and right now it's an on-premise solution that we have. So we would like to move to a hosted service, so it will be hosted in the cloud, and this would provide us with more security. So in the past, for example, we've had some incidents in the library that have caused the server that we host here to go out, which causes us to lose phone services for a few days, which, if you'll recall, back was it last summer when we lost our phone services, and then we had a big issue. It was a security issue because we weren't able to make phone calls within the building. So this would provide some redundancy so that we would, even if we lost, even if our Wi-Fi went out, we would be able to use our hotspots, and our computers can become a soft phone, so that we can still make and receive phone calls. We can also, there's some new capabilities that our current system doesn't have, because, while 2015 doesn't seem that long ago, apparently Craig was an intern back then, and a while ago. So there's just a lot of new functionalities that we do not have that we would like to have, because it would allow us to offer that to patrons, and that would been easier. We did meet with we got proposals from 3 different companies. They were all fairly similar price wise. The Tailored Systems is a local company. Their offices are on 146 by Costco, and they serve a lot of the municipal and other local businesses. But they work with both cities of Noblesville and Fisher, and they have just a depth of knowledge that we were really impressed by when we met with. That was our proposal, or our request is to approve their proposal.
So it was a one-time fee of just over 10.
Yes. So that's a one-time implementation.
So, and then the $1,800 a month-ish. We have a, either now,
We do, and so that monthly fee is fairly small for the phone service, but what we're paying that's quite large is an AT&T that would go away when. So it's a small increase over what we're paying now, but they'll be able to eliminate.
Any other questions for Melissa, other than anyone had a motion?
Motion to adopt the administrative recommendation, the VoIP service.
Okay.
Craig's moved, Michelle second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, time for vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? AR for voice or internet protocol services.
can we speak up? For the public hearing.
Understood. Next item is architect for small projects. This is coming out of the buildings and grounds. Greg, you mind if I throw that to you to ask what we were learning there for architect for small projects, or?
Sure, absolutely. All right, so the, as you all know, we approved some small project work. Circulation desk in Noblesville and the children's area, Fishers. So we need to hire to do some preliminary work. We solicited proposals, got a number of them, we narrowed them down to two, which were reviewed by the grounds committee, the administration. For this, of the two that we reviewed, the committee liked in particular. The team we spoke to, like extensive libraries, based on the presentation, it really zeroed in on what we were looking to do with these two small projects. We circulated the letter, so buildings and ground committee recommends the board choose to move forward for the schematic design.
We'll say anything to add to that.
Just that, so yeah, this would just be the design portion, and then after that would be, we would bring it back, once we have design, bring it back to the board to present for, do we want to move forward with each, the different elements.
Make a motion to approve the architect for small project of PR County. Fine.
James moved, is it? That's seconds. Any other discussion on the KRM architect group is selected as architect for small project? Hearing none, time for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. KRM, the architect for small projects, go forward and conquer. Next item, Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors Engagement. This also arises out of buildings and grounds. That buildings and grounds? Yeah, that was just earlier this week. Frank, would you be able to comment on that? Sure.
Yes, the buildings and ground committee also met with members of the administration, they particularly Miller in regard to bonding the library project, which is super helpful. I'm not sure, maybe with you, Michelle, the board members who are bonding. Very enlightening. We got a chance to meet with the utility team, members of the explorer team that would be working on this. Very knowledgeable, gave us a presentation and more than I did going into this. Looks like we circulated the agreement. A good team and chime in from the building and grounds committee, but moving forward.
And I think that we would like to bring them back to do, the presentation for the full board, just similar to what they did, just to get everyone, and they can provide and what, how process.
Do we have work right now that we need them to do, or is it just something that?
This is more prospectively on what we're looking to do with branch and understanding when we have one bond that rolls off in 20.
So this is all Mike Reuter's suggestions. So basically, if he tells us to do it, we like to do it. But he suggested, so he's got some ideas on how using some current funds, we would make payments on our current bonds, and so would like to bring in a municipal advisor to help us figure out it for, when payments on our current bonds, and then when we would want to issue a new bond.
If I may, another comment. Maybe maybe start reaching out to the public about this project, bond. It'd be terrific. Why not this year? Together some sort of cheat sheet or something that we take to get stakeholders when here's what we're doing, why we're doing it, how.
Yes, and then next month, so we have a long-range planning committee meeting, and so Veritas Group is gonna be meeting with the long-range planning committee and then do a presentation for the full board about the results of their feasibility study and then all of the focus groups that they did, so we should have that.
And who's on the long range plan?
Michelle and Brad. We should have more data coming soon about the team. I made a note for it.
That's what they need.
Any other discussion? Then is there a motion on the Baker Tilly engagement municipal advisor?
I'll move to engage Baker Tilly as our.
Motion from Michelle, any second? Seconds, any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. If you're in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on. Next was, we had an item on our agenda, a health insurance plan ratification and a note for board members. I think this, that we were hoping to have information by the time we had the
We
meeting.
have some information, but we don't have the exact final plan. So I can tell you, so we have, we are under budget for that line item, and it looks like at one point we were looking at potentially 30% increase, but we have, with the new numbers that came back, we're looking at maybe, it'll be about a 12% increase for health insurance. And we should be able to stay with our same provider, which is nice, because it's hard to bounce back and forth between providers or staff having to switch for doctors and things like that. So we should have all the finalized things for the next month. But we do have, or just show with you. But we were very pleased with what NFP came back with for
Figure we'll have that for March meeting.
yes, absolutely, because we have to finalize it by Monday, so. But we will share what the, or so we did vote on it last month to authorize us to approve it as long as we stayed under the budget, and we should be well.
Any other questions on that agenda item? Moving on to internal controls policy updates. Melissa, can you tell us what's happening there?
So there were some of the changes were just changing and updating titles. So one of the main things was changing bookkeeper to staff accountant. That was just a staff internal change. Let's see. Some of the other changes were just more to reflect what is actually happening in our thing. So I'm not sure if you were able to see, we just got the uploaded tracked changes version, but so trying to remember. Okay, yes, so in cash receipts and banking, one of the changes is made to deposits are made at least weekly on business days, because if we take in $500, we have to take the that day. So that's just a change in verbiage for that. Some of the other ones are just delineation of who does it. So cash is recounted and verified by the administrative office assistant is a change, and then deposit is taken to the bank by the staff accountant. Also, it changes from, further on down under the cash receipts and banking, instead of co-ed deposits, it's tax deposits, because we get a lot of other deposits, and co-ed is actually called local income tax anyway. Then under cash disbursements, a change for, instead of library treasurer reviewing all invoices and completing the POs, administrative assistant completes the PO balance form, which is approved by the treasurer and then given to staff accounts, with adding some layers of, and Kim, correct me if I say anything wrong, so, okay. So we add some layers of checks and balances in that. Also, under contracts, made it so that all contracts or agreements that are more than $500 or last for over a year must be signed by Molly or I. And under investments, change to interest is posted as investments mature, because before it said monthly, that our investments don't mature monthly. That we do not have that many investments. And then under credit cards, putting in a requirement that it would be an itemized receipt that staff have to turn in, as opposed to just a receipt, because that's required. So these are just, it's mostly just some cleaning up of language and changing of titles, and so it's nothing too dramatic.
Any questions for Melissa on that? Or motions from the board?
Motion to approve the, edited internal controls procedures.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve the internal control policy? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. General controls policy will be updated. Next item is director's reports.
So, just one of the things we did upload is a conflict of interest form, and I think we have printed, do we have printed copies? Yes, Kevin does. So we do need each board member to fill out conflict of interest form each year, so we have, a copy, if you could bring it back for the next meeting. If you have any questions, ask Kim. She'll be better at answering. Yes, I know, and you probably are the one who actually definitely have things on there, so. There's one thing that did not make it into this report, but I wanted to tell you. So we had we had Mallory, who's one of our librarians, and was interviewed tonight by WRTV, along with, 5 from the Chamber of Commerce, about some of our technology programs that we offer. So it was airing at 6 on WRTV. So seeing her, Mallory is great. Also wanted to let you know that we are finalizing the annual report for the state library, which means we will be going up to do annual report presentations for the our appointing authorities. We already have it scheduled for the commissioners. Still waiting to hear back from the council, and then we're going to schedule the schools after that. So I will let you know so that if you're able to attend, we will have you join us as well. And we will send out a copy of our presentation. And basically, it's just summarizing the statistics of like how many books were circulated and how many programs we did, things like that. So, but just sharing a general update with the library of what the library worked on in the last year with our authorities. So getting back to what we did last month, it was in January we do comic book in a day, which is a really big program that we offer in collaboration with some other organizations. And if you didn't get a chance, there is a link to the young man who created, or he was the winner, and his Dirt Finds His Value comic is genuinely amazing. And so there is a link, you can go see it, go look at it online. We also have in the Ignite studio, there's quite a few of the comics from that day are, you can go look at them. It's a really, like, pictures from it are just amazing. You know, they get the full, like, there's people everywhere. I was talking to Megan about how like spaces we can expand into next year because it just grows every year. And it's a really interesting and cool event. I mean, we get people of all ages, you know, kids come with their parents and adults who come and do it. And so it's truly something that is, you know, can be a whole family can come. We also had our puzzle swap back again, and Danielle from our adult services department and heads that up, and she does a really great job. But there were, before it even opened, she had 80 people lined up to come in. And so this is her thing where you can bring in puzzles and drop them off and come in and select new puzzles. And then they also had a puzzle showdown where people do, it's a speed round for puzzles. To do a puzzle, and so that was, they did it in 29 minutes and 36 seconds, which is impressive. We also had, we feel like we've gotten to a good sweet spot with Hoopla, our downloadable, and we're gonna do a full report on that next month for the board, but we're getting, you know, and the feedback from the public is that, you know, if you'll recall, we had to make some changes so that we didn't just blow through our entire collection budget last year. But we think we've gotten a really good spot where we're able to make it so that people are able to get the materials they want, but we're also being reasonable with our collection dollars. And this is a thing that is happening across the country. You know, a lot of libraries are even just dropping the plot. So we don't want to do that, but we hope that we've found a good spot where we can maintain the service, but do so in a way that doesn't put the rest of our collection at risk. We also, we had a visit from a Girl Scout troop visit the CRDC, and they did a really cool event where they went through and they worked with our staff here on doing some family history things and genealogy, and would really love just to let all the other troops, Boy Scout, Girl Scout, Brownie troops, Cub Scouts, if they want to come, we're happy to offer that service to other groups. And so I got to see some of the activities they did, and it was a fun event. And then one of the moms wrote up an article about it and was in Hamilton County Reporter. So if you wanted to read that. And then we also have been working, and things are getting, we've been working with our new vendor for technology, and our staff have been very patient, and we're finally getting to a better spot with printing. We still have issues, some hiccups and things like that, but it's getting better. So, but specifically would like to thank Liz, who has she's great all the time, but she had some ideas on just things we can do to improve it even more. So, and then Kelsey and her team launched the paid advertising campaign with Google Ads. We got a grant to help us cover the cost of doing some targeted ads on Google. And so those have launched, and hopefully will continue to be useful. So I'm happy to answer any other questions about that. It's busy, even, I mean, it's cold outside, but people were still coming in.
Just one thing, Melissa, I know Lisa couldn't be here tonight, but can you comment on the status of the foundation and how we're doing?
Yes, I know that. So you guys have had a couple of board meetings, and the documents have been submitted for the 501c3 approval, and we are set to launch with sort of in April with Library Awareness Month. It's set to launch a big introductory campaign. So starting in April. So yeah, Lisa can't be here tonight, so she could be back next month to do the full report. She's working on some plans for like social media campaigns, and been working with her.
Anything else on the director? And I think it's just other new business. The only other thing, or the patron survey I saw was in our material. Wasn't sure if that was something.
I'm happy to talk to you about it, but if you are, I have a presentation, but I'm
Let's
You're about, all right.
roll with it.
All right, well, she's bringing that up. So yeah, thank you for a few minutes of your time to talk through this today. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of review the results of our 2024 patron experience survey. We'll kind of go over the ratings and then a review of all comments that we received. Kind of before I start, I want to thank Kelsey and our marketing team for all the pictures. You're going to see some pictures spread throughout, but also staff for sending in pictures, and then of course staff for making the experience possible for all of the experiences that our patrons had last year. Let's see a little bit more of HEPL in 2024. I don't know if it is gonna look. I don't think it's not gonna help me, sorry. All right, so just the basics of the survey here. We ran it for 2 weeks in November. We offered it in print and digital, so print in both locations, and then we had signs up promoting the digital, our self-checkouts and posters and bookmarks, but also in an email blast campaign that Kelsey and her team put together. By far, everything came in digital. We had just a handful of paper copies that were. This is now our 6th year of collecting this same data. We did change just a couple of things this year. We added a question about home delivery because this year Anita and her team have been working hard to really improve that service. So we wanted to get some feedback on how that's been going, and also the survey is another chance to introduce it to people that maybe not aware of it. So another way to get it in front of some eyes. And then we updated our question about Indiana Room and change it to the Crossroads Discovery Center. So, and then this year we also added a special question. We haven't done that every year, but we asked people how they prefer to hear about our library programs and services. You can see here that we had not as many responses as last year, which again, we weren't as newsworthy maybe this 2024 as we were in 23, but still I'm very happy with that number of responses, and I think it's a good solid number to work with, and definitely improving on where we started in 2019. Happy with that. All right, so the demographics, we asked optional demographic questions. So what we'll see here is just those that responded and how they compare with our service area demographics in general. We're pretty much in line with the demographics of our area for race. Not out of what we would expect. Next is age. So the 18 to 64 age range, 60% of our responses came from that age range. So that is pretty much in line with what our service area is. 38% of our responses came from 65 plus, and only 2% from those under 18. So we're not in line there, but I don't know if we could expect too much different. Although, as you can see from you can tell from the picture here, our happy crowd of toddlers, we like to consider them our informal youth vote when they come through very happy every week. So we'll consider them. All right, next, thank you. As far as primary library zip code, we did see a slight increase in responses from people that are using Noblesville as their home library, and then a decrease in responses from people coming from other areas or outside of our service area. Again, might have to do with kind of, we were less in the news maybe last year. So. But this breakdown between Noblesville and Fishers is pretty much in line with what we see with traffic through the doors and circulation. This is very much in line with what we would expect to see between the buildings. And that was one of my favorite pictures from the year, like the whole rainbow. That was so cool. Okay, so now into the ratings. So these are the 4 areas that we primarily ask about: customer service, interior spaces, library materials, and technology. So this is the broad, 4 out of 4 stars. What would you give us on all of these categories? So for the most part, we're holding steady there. Customer service holding strong, and uptick in interior spaces, which I think reflects the substantial completion, as we know, as our work rate of construction, and all the negative responses going away that we saw last year. Library materials is a rise from last year, but we will kind of dive down into some some concerns and opportunities in that category when we get farther in there in this presentation. Same with technology, and we see a little bit of a drop, which I think has to do with the timing of our new app release, but also the situation that was referenced earlier too. So we'll see some more specifics here as we go along. Okay, before we dive deeper into the specifics though, here are the 5 most and 5 least commonly utilized services or experiences. And we determined this by if they gave the experience a rating or they selected did not use. So that's how we determined this. And it is important for us to provide exceptional service at every interaction. But when we see a negative trend or experience in a most commonly used area, that's something we really need to prioritize fixing, right? Because then that's impacting the most patrons. So that's why this is important for us. So some of these rating fluctuations we can maybe explain through the comments, or maybe something we know, not all of them are that obvious, but the important thing is that we are looking at this data, we're looking at it as a group, we share this information with our leadership team. It's something for us to talk about and work through and think about in areas that we can see what's going right and talk about areas that we can improve or things that we should be working on and changing. So customer service. I'm pretty proud to say that our customer service numbers are staying strong, and even a small improvement over last year in our helpfulness rating. We are committed to ongoing customer service training, organization, and our staff is pretty hardworking. So I think that we always expect these numbers to be high. And I'd like to see these stay. Okay, so for each area, we not only asked for the individual questions there, but we had a free response question. And in total, there were 530 responses to the question, what would you like to tell us about our customer service? Overwhelmingly, it was positive comments about customer service experience here, and words like knowledgeable, friendly, and kind were very frequently used. But also, we saw a lot of feedback in this question, really not about customer service, but related to spaces and what that shows up a lot. The other category also had comments about reference, services, programs, things we see in other areas. So those are really covered in other parts. For every question in the free response that you'll see throughout the presentation, I tried to include a positive sample comment and a constructive, we'll call it constructive sample comment, so that you can see how we might use these comments to help just guide the work of the library. And I think that's an example here of somebody said they got different information on what to do with the book, but that's something we can easily address. That's just an easy training thing that we can address with. Interior spaces, improvements in all of these areas. Again, no more construction. I think that one's just an easy one. End of construction and just improvements. Happy to see that that is reflected. There were 386 responses to the question, what would you like us to know about our interior spaces? Overall, general feedback is positive. The negative feedback seemed to circle around the design choices of the remodel. So it's more some thoughts about it having an unwelcoming feel or lack of cozy vibes. The north entrance in Fishers is a bit polarizing for people. So they either really like it because it's open and natural light, or they really don't like it because there's a wasted space, the lack of a book drop, and it's difficult to access the rest of the main library. But we do have an update. There is a book drop as of Monday. So thanks to Anita and her crew and all the staff for making that happen. We now have that. So it's an interior book drop. So we still have our drive-through. The drive-through is still there on the other side of the building, but now we've added an interior book drop on that lower level. So
Yes, we listen when you say, tell us.
We do. Right.
The example comments that you can see here, I think demonstrate, the love that Ignite always gets in these surveys, but also a reflection of the request for the cozy spaces. So that's another thing that we can take into consideration as we're working through these small projects, is looking at the furnishings. Is there something that we can do with that? We can definitely explore ways that we can improve that. Fishers Youth Services was another area that came up, and we know that's an area that didn't get a lot of remodeling in the last round. So we're aware of things that we can address. The library materials questions were broken down into two areas, the collections and then access to the collections. So some of the numbers are high here, but also there's some room for improvement in some of these areas. The outlier here is definitely the online digital collections, and we know that is HEPL, so we are aware, which we had to make those changes just to protect the materials budget, as Melissa mentioned earlier. And we have made some adjustments that we think are getting us to that sweet spot. But we're not entirely satisfied when we see numbers, even that 91 there as well. So we are committed to seeing improvements there and working with the team to make changes. We can see those numbers go up. Overall, accessing the library collections received some high marks, with the exception of requesting materials the library does not own. And we talked through some of this earlier tonight. Some of the challenges on that request modules. We've been already looking at some alternatives to that and how we can improve that process. And then also locating materials. So we will talk more about that in the technology section too, but I believe that is a combination of the new app rolled out mid-year, kind of in May-ish. So that has been an improvement, but we are aware that the online catalog is a little dated, a little funky. So that's something we're looking at that we might be able to change or replace or improve in the near future. So I think that's where that lower rating is coming to. There were 575 responses to the question, what would you like to tell us about using the library materials offered by Hamilton East Public Library? The majority of comments were about availability of materials, either positive about the makeup of the collection or critical about missing items in series, slow release time for new books, and long hold waits. This is already work that our collection team has been working to address. But again, we're committed to seeing this continue to improve and working through very specific strategies. One in particular that Joseph and his team is really ready to start implementing is book leasing. So this is an idea that can get more copies in when it's super popular and hot. And then we're not having to deal with them when it's not popular anymore. So that's something that he's going to start up pretty soon. And that's a great idea that they're working on. So thanks to him for looking. So just some more comments related to, again, some positives, some negatives about our collections. I agree, the new app, I very much like it. The technology screen, again, we're all in the area, the 90s, which is not a bad place to be, but some areas that we can be aware of improvements on. There are three, you can go to the next. Thank you, that I want to call your attention to. There were 282 responses to the question, what would you like to tell about technology at Hamilton East Public Library? Three areas I want to call to are the app. So again, 18 of 55 were positive, but I really do think that had to do with the switching over. I think there was some confusion between if they were using the old app or the new app. So I'd like to see a full year's run with the new app before we do anything there. But then the online catalog, again, we're aware. We're aware there's some clunkiness there and we need to make some improvements, and 2026 is the year that we can be looking at alternatives for that. And then public computers and printing, Melissa already addressed this, but yeah, we were aware that printing has been a problem, not only for patrons, but for staff. And that is definitely something they're prioritizing, getting that fully fixed. Okay. Last question there just asked about other services and experiences. It's always good to see that Ignite and CRDC are their consistently high performing areas. And the comments are just generally overwhelmingly positive for programming. Sometimes they had suggestions for specific ideas or improvements. And just like with all of this, we share all of those comments with the specific department that runs that program, so they can take all the feedback under consideration. And finally, the special question. So this question, we made this question only allow one selection so that we can really narrow it down to what was the top one. So the other question there, it was quite funny because we often got, why didn't you let me click more than one? That was one of the top responses, or all of the above. But actually, the email was the number one other response. So email came in as actually the second most popular behind library app. So those two were the most frequently popular for how to hear about library programs and events. And that is it. Any questions about that or?
There are any data points that you were just by and didn't see coming? Because obviously the people have things, you figured, yeah, things, but
I don't think so. I mean, that it was so low, in the 70s, that did. Yeah. Melissa, did you have any that were?
No, because I think we talk a lot about things we can do to improve, and so I think we in tune, and we do listen to patrons, and people talk to us in the community, and so we get your feedback all the time, so it's too surprising, but they are all things we are looking at, with some of the stuff are things that are, it wasn't terribly difficult to add the book drop in the lower level. We had to work through having, staff emptying it and then ordering the equipment and the actual book drop and working with our RFIDLS who, so when they put it in, it automatically. So there was that, but that was actually, that we can deal with pretty quickly. But, things that are with our catalog, that won't be until 2026 when we're still contracted through with what we have now. So, looking at something different, we can't do anything immediately about that, but we are aware of it, and it's good feedback to have. So when we go make decisions for the future about what we want to.
Did you get a lot of feedback on the seed library?
Very, very little on the seed library.
So you put a lot of work into that.
Yeah,
People love the seed library, yeah.
that would be a good question to add and or official question. No, just a good, yeah.
Maybe they're just going to be quiet if they want someone else.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. I think the only other item, I think Michelle, your chair of policy committee, could you just tell us, we just had a meeting at 5:15, just tell us the status of what the board might expect to receive in the near future.
Absolutely. So we met prior to this meeting to review some edits to the collection development policy with, and we spent most of the time talking about the review for reconsideration process. So we are revising that process. And so after this meeting, I know Melissa was going to get the board the marked up copy of the CDP so that you would have plenty of time to review that and ask Melissa questions prior to the next board meeting when we will vote on.
Yeah, have discussions.
Absolutely, we'll have some discussion and because I'm sure there will be some questions to the changes.
But we intend to get it out, if not tomorrow, then Monday, just so you have a full month to review it and read through it.
Sounds good. If you can send it out both as a marked up version and version, that would be.
Yeah.
All right. Unless I hear any other business, we're at the end. Is there a motion?
Motion to